Have you ever wondered how we got from simple dots on a screen to the massive, breathtaking virtual worlds we explore today? The story of video games is a wild ride of innovation, rivalry, and pure fun. So grab your controller and let's rewind the clock to the very beginning. It all started not in a garage or a basement, but in the sterile, humming environment of research labs in the 1950s and 60s. Back then, computers were gigantic machines filling entire rooms. They weren't built for fun. They were built for serious number crunching. But a few brilliant minds saw a different potential. In 1958, at Brookhaven National Laboratory, a physicist named William Higginbotham wanted to liven up the lab's annual visitor day. He created a simple game on a tiny oscilloscope screen. He called it Tennis for Two. It was a basic side view of a tennis court with a bouncing dot for a ball. Players used a small box with a knob and a button to hit the ball over the net. It was a massive hit with the public, but Higginbotham didn't think much of it. He was a scientist, not an entertainer, so he never patented it. He unknowingly created one of the very first video games. A few years later, in 1962, a group of students at MIT, led by Steve Russell, were tinkering with a new PDP-1 computer. They decided to create a program that would truly show off its power. The result was Space War. Two player-controlled spaceships, a torpedo-firing wedge and a rounded needle, dueled it out around a central star whose gravity would pull them in. It was complex, strategic, and incredibly addictive. Space War spread like wildfire through the academic community, passed from one university to another on reels of tape. These early games were novelties, sparks of genius in a world of serious computation. But they planted the seeds for everything to come. The 1970s is when the spark truly ignited and burst into a full-blown explosion. The idea of playing games on a screen started to move out of the lab and into the living room. The pioneer of this movement was a man named Ralph Baer. In the late 60s, Baer and his team at Sanders Associates developed a prototype for a home video game system. It was a simple brown wooden box with two wired controllers that could play a handful of games, mostly involving moving dots around the screen. They called it the Brown Box. This humble invention caught the attention of the television company Magnavox. They licensed the technology, tweaked the design, and in 1972, released the world's first home video game console, the Magnavox Odyssey. It didn't have a CPU or memory like modern consoles. The games were played using plastic overlays that you taped to your TV screen to create the illusion of different settings. It was primitive, but it was revolutionary. For the first time, families could interact with their televisions. While the Odyssey was quietly making its way into homes, a young engineer named Nolan Bushnell was about to change the world. Bushnell had played Space War in college and was obsessed with the idea of creating a coin-operated version. He founded a company with Ted Dabney, and they called it Atari. Their first major project was a simple ping-pong game. Bushnell had seen a demonstration of an electronic ping-pong game on the Magnavox Odyssey, and tasked his new engineer, Al Alcorn, with creating a similar game as a training exercise. The result was Pong, a simple, elegant game with two paddles and a ball. The sound effects, just a simple boop and bleep, were iconic. In 1972, they placed their first prototype Pong arcade machine in a local bar called Andy Capp's Tavern. A few days later, they got a call. The machine was broken. When Alcorn went to fix it, he found the problem. The coin mechanism was literally overflowing with quarters. Pong wasn't just a game, it was a phenomenon. It launched the arcade industry, and soon bars, bowling alleys, and shopping malls were filled with the glow and sound of video games. Atari would go on to release a home version of Pong in 1975, which became a massive holiday bestseller and cemented video games as a mainstream form of entertainment. The 1980s arrived, and with them came the golden age of arcades. This was the era of iconic characters and unforgettable gameplay. In 1980, Namco unleashed a yellow, pizza-shaped hero on the world, Pac-Man. The game's simple goal of eating dots while avoiding ghosts was a universal concept that appealed to everyone, men and women, young and old. Pac-Man became a cultural icon, spawning merchandise, a cartoon show, and even a hit song. A year later, a small Japanese company called Nintendo was trying to break into the American arcade market. Their designer, a young Shigeru Miyamoto, was tasked with creating a new game. The result was Donkey Kong. Instead of shooting aliens, players controlled a carpenter named Jumpman, who would later be renamed Mario X. He tried to rescue a damsel in distress from a giant ape. Its platforming gameplay was a breath of fresh air. Then, in 1984, a puzzle game from the Soviet Union began to make its way west. Created by Alexei Pajitnov, Tetris was a game of hypnotic simplicity. Fit falling blocks together to clear lines. It was endlessly replayable and found a perfect home on Nintendo's handheld Game Boy a few years later, becoming one of the best-selling games of all time. But the good times couldn't last forever. The market had become oversaturated with consoles and a flood of low-quality, rushed games, most infamously Atari ZT, the extraterrestrial. Consumers lost faith. And in 1983, the North American video game industry crashed, and crashed hard. Retailers slashed prices, companies went bankrupt, and for a while, it looked like video games might just be a fad that had run its course. But from the ashes of the crash, a savior emerged. Nintendo, cautious but confident, launched its Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, in North America in 1985. They marketed it not as a video game console, but as an entertainment system, complete with a toy robot named ROB to appeal to nervous retailers. Crucially, Nintendo implemented a strict seal of quality, ensuring that games released for their system met a certain standard. Led by blockbuster titles like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda, the NES didn't just revive the industry. It redefined it, creating a new generation of gamers and setting the stage for the next great conflict. The 1990s were defined by one thing: war. It's not a real war, but the 16-bit console war. In one corner, you had the established champion, Nintendo, with its family-friendly image and the Super Nintendo. In the other corner, the challenger, Sega, with its cooler, edgier attitude and its speedy blue mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega launched an aggressive marketing campaign directly targeting Nintendo. Sega does what Nintendo didn't. This rivalry was fierce, splitting playgrounds and households. It pushed both companies to innovate, leading to some of the most beloved games and franchises in history. But as the 16-bit era wound down, a new dimension was calling. The transition to 3D graphics was the next great leap forward. While early attempts had been made on PC, the mid-90s saw 3D gaming explode into the mainstream. In 1994, a new player entered the console market: Sony, their creation. The PlayStation, with its CD-ROM format, offered vast storage for cinematic cutscenes and sprawling 3D worlds. It positioned itself as a more mature, sophisticated choice for an audience that had grown up with Nintendo. Nintendo responded in 1996 with the Nintendo 64. While it stuck with the cartridge format, its powerful hardware and revolutionary analog stick controller allowed for unprecedented 3D movement in games like Super Mario 64, which wrote the rulebook for 3D platforming. Meanwhile, PC gaming was hitting its stride. Games like Doom and Quake popularized the first-person shooter genre and pioneered online deathmatches, while strategy games like StarCraft became global sensations. The leap into the third dimension wasn't just a graphical upgrade. It fundamentally changed how we played and experienced games. As we entered the new millennium, the gaming landscape continued to evolve at a breathtaking pace. The 2000s were the era of online multiplayer gaming becoming mainstream, with the launch of consoles like the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Nintendo GameCube. High-speed internet allowed players from around the world to connect and compete. Microsoft's Xbox Live service, in particular, set the standard for a seamless online console experience, making games like Halo to a global phenomenon. At the same time, a new frontier was opening up in our pockets. The rise of smartphones created a massive new market for mobile gaming. Simple. Addictive games like Angry Birds and Candy Crush Saga introduced gaming to a whole new audience. People who might never have bought a dedicated console. Gaming was no longer confined to the living room or the PC desk. It was everywhere. Today, the video game industry is a juggernaut, a global entertainment market worth hundreds of billions of dollars, larger than the movie and music industries combined. Graphics have achieved a level of photorealism that was once pure science fiction. We've seen the rise of esports, where professional gamers compete in stadiums for millions of dollars, and the incredible popularity of game streaming on platforms like Twitch and YouTube, turning gamers into international celebrities. And the future looks even more exciting. Virtual reality and augmented reality are no longer just concepts from sci-fi movies. They're here, offering new levels of immersion and changing the way we interact with digital worlds. From the simple dots of tennis for two hyper-realistic virtual realities. The journey of video games has been a testament to human creativity and our timeless love of play. What started in a lab has become a global culture, connecting millions of us in shared adventures. And the best part? The game is far from over. Thanks for watching this journey through gaming history. What was your first video game? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more deep dives into the worlds we love to play in.